Welcome to Tab News, a production of the Alabama Baptist and Square Core Media. Tab News is a weekly talk show and audio digest addressing current headline stories. For 175 years and still today, the Alabama Baptist has been an essential part of the Alabama Baptist State Convention, of cooperating Baptist churches, and of individual Baptist Christians wanting to grow in their knowledge and understanding of what God is doing in His world.
For Tab News, your weekly conversation about headlines from the world of faith-based news. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash.
And I'm your co-host, Debbie Campbell.
All right, all you missions trip people, wouldn't you love to have a travel agent, basically, to customize a trip just for you? Go exactly where you wanted, for the time frame you wanted, do all of the thinking for you. I'm putting words in his mouth. I don't know if Michael's going to like this, but do every piece of it and then put you out there and all you have to do is show up. Well, I think that's what Michael O'Neill's going to tell us about, but with Real Life International, and it sounds a little bit like what he's doing now. So, Michael, thanks for joining us and being here so we can talk to you about that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, so how did I do? Did I get close?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You wrapped it up, Jennifer. What else is
So anyway, it's been nice seeing you and talking to y'all. I'm so excited to learn about Real Life, and we'll talk about how it's spelled in a minute, but I'm really excited about Real Life International, and what I keep seeing on your website is that Real Life works alongside the church. So this is not a church itself.
Absolutely.
So I guess maybe start there. Tell us just the basics of what is Real Life International, and then how does it work alongside the church? What does that mean?
Yeah. So we're a mission-sending organization. We help people go on short-term trips, and we want to work alongside the local church, both here in the States as well as abroad. So when we recruit and send teams from the States, we want to go with the blessing of the local church, even assist local churches in sending teams and providing training and the resources and things like that.
Okay.
But when we go and serve along the long-term missionaries abroad, we want to do that well alongside the local churches. In other words, the local church is God's ordained institution for furthering His gospel to the ends of the earth. And we want to assist the church in doing that and come alongside the church to further their mission in their own communities.
Okay. So you are the founder and director, we understand.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about when you launched Real Life and how all of that came to be.
Yeah. So we started 10 years ago, 2009. It's a interesting story. My life, I've been a Christian the vast majority of my life. I don't really remember a time when I didn't walk with the Lord. I came to know the Lord at a very young age. I grew up in a Christian home and really wanted to follow Christ and live my life for the Lord from a very young age. But as I, grew up and got married and had a family, looking back at my life, it mainly consisted of the things of our faith that, you want to obey the Ten Commandments. You want to go to church. You want to have a quiet time. You want to give your tithe, and that was pretty much it. And so I looked at all these things and felt like I'm keeping my nose clean. I go to church. I pray. I pretty much living the Christian life. But what I was missing were the commands of Scripture that tell us to also do certain things, to share our faith, to care for the poor, to care for the orphan, care for the widow, to be passionate, to further God's kingdom to the ends of the earth, and to love our neighbors ourselves. I mean, those things that are more intentional and are require more effort than just checking the boxes of going to church. That I realized I was missing those things, and so I wanted to. The Lord just moved in my heart and helped me see. It started off, I read a book by John Piper called Don't Waste Your Life, and he had written that book specifically to me. I don't know how he did it. I've never met John Piper, but he identified my life goals and my ambitions and passions very well.
I think he had your picture on this wall, maybe. Yeah, he was right. I'm sure a lot of people had that same.
He nailed it for sure. And then after that, I started hearing Pastor David Platt preach, and I'd not heard his style of preaching before, where he was really talking about people around the world. I learned several different very interesting statistics. One, and these are today's statistics actually, but if you make $34,200, you're in the top 1% of income earners in the world. And that blew me away. And then 46% of the world's population lives on less than $5.50 a day, which is just under right around $2,000 a year. And I heard that. I was like, 46%. That's just Africa or developing nations. That can't be the whole world. So I went home and looked it up, and it was true. So really, the perspective of how blessed we are with resources, with gospel materials, with churches, with our freedom to worship Jesus Christ, it hit me that I guess the whole parable of the talents took on a different meaning. I started to understand it differently where, okay, I'm the one. I think we as believers in America, we're the ones who've been entrusted the most. We're the servant who's been given the most. And to whom much is given, much is expected. So I had never been on a short-term trip, but I felt instantly like the Lord was calling me to do this. And most of my friends had never been on a short-term trip either. And so from the very beginning, I thought, well, I need to go and I need to recruit them to come too. We all need to go do this and be involved in doing the things that the Scripture commands. And let's go do this on a short-term trip. And then let's see how that can translate back to our life here at home where our mission field is 51 weeks of the year.
Wow.
So how did you go about planning that first trip that got you really
that was
convicted?
That was an interesting story. So
that's where you learned all the things not to do, right?
Yeah.
That's right. And there's a lot of truth to that.
Oh.
When you go on your first mission trip and you go home and you tell your wife that you feel like the Lord's calling you to lead a mission trip, she is very wise, and she says, well, I don't know that you can lead a mission trip. You've never been on a mission trip. And she was very wise in that. And but the Lord was calling me to do this, and He put some people on that team. It was a team of 14, and He put 2 or 3 people on that team who had very good experience on short-term missions, and the Lord taught us a lot through them. And through the local missionaries. I did learn from the get-go that when we go, we're going to serve the long-term missionaries, and they're going to tell you what you're going to do and where you're going to stay, and they're going to handle things on the ground. We're there to serve them.
Right.
And so it didn't take a whole lot of, experience on my part to go down there and know what to do. We were going to rely on them, and we stumbled into that. We just kind of figured that out along the way.
Yeah. Where did you go?
We went to Costa Rica. So as the Lord would have it, shortly after I had these revelations and understanding of what God was calling me to do, I met a missionary, a couple of guys that were in the States visiting Mount Brook Community Church at the time, and they were there recruiting teams to go when I just so happened to be having recently committed that I'm going to try to do this sometime soon.
Okay.
And here they are sitting at the table with me. And they were nice, and they spoke some good English. And I said, well, Costa Rica sounds like a neat place.
A divine connection.
That's right.
I know.
Right.
All right, so you have some time at Church at Brook Hills here in Birmingham.
Sure.
You're currently on the leadership team of Tapestry Church, which is a pretty new church in Birmingham, right?
Yeah, we started September a year ago.
Okay.
So a year and a couple of months old now. Derek Thomas is the pastor, and it's fantastic.
Okay, so
New church.
So you got some good church foundational pieces here, but tell us about your business side of life. So to be able to start this ministry, did you have some business background? How did you back yourself into this?
Yeah, so I'm a State Farm agent here in Birmingham, and I still do that. That's my full-time paying job.
Those are important.
That's right. So it's interesting. Back in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, I had a real estate business on the side and was investing in real estate and doing some different things there in addition to the State Farm agency. And that was a lot of what the book Don't Waste Your Life kind of where it hit me was my passion was to make as much money as I could, be ethical, be a good husband, be a good father, go to church, but really achieve as much as I could in terms of what this world had to offer. And that was my passion. So I think being successful in business and making a lot of money and things like that are not bad in of themselves. But when that's your passion to the exclusion of living your life to further the kingdom, and it gets in the way of furthering the kingdom, that's where the problem arises. And that's where it was for me.
Right.
And so the missions thing kind of came in and took over the real estate part. I stopped doing that on the side, and I started doing the ministry on the side instead in that time. And so it was almost like the Lord had prepared me to be able to have a dual occupation type thing. One was making money. The ministry is storing treasure in heaven. I don't get paid for the ministry there, but it's something that has given me so much joy and so much fulfillment that, life has never been better. I mean, and I almost think that the abundant life that the Bible talks about can be incomplete as we walk in our faith if we're not in alignment with the Lord and what He's wanting us to do and what He calls us to do, right? I believe we all have the same calling from a big standpoint. That is to worship and live our life for Christ and to further His kingdom. We're here to be obedient, to do these things. And when we only check the boxes for don't do this, don't do that, that's good. But when we start doing the things that we feel like are sacrificial, that take our time, that take our attention, that maybe replace some passions, all of a sudden we experience an abundance that we never knew before. And that's what's happened in my life.
Starting that. And so that started you on this journey.
It has. And it's been neat because the biggest part of it is through doing the short-term missions, I've grown my relationship much closer to the Lord, and I've learned how to share my faith. I did not share my faith before we started going on short-term mission trips. The first 2 or 3 short-term mission trips, I didn't share my faith on those either. But about my fourth one of the pastors that we were serving alongside asked us to do door-to-door evangelism, and I did not really know how I felt about that. I was not excited or looking forward to that, but we wanted to do what they told us to do, so we did it, and that day changed my life.
Yeah. How did it go?
Well, it was unbelievable. We were in Cuba, and I guess I was looking at it like maybe what it would be like if I did that on my street here, but it was very different. The people in Cuba are oppressed, and they've been told for 50 years there is no God. It's an atheistic government. They don't have Bible resources. They don't have Bibles. There's a lot of things they don't have that we take for granted here. And so when we went and alongside the local house church with the members, we divided up and went to their neighborhoods. The people were so excited to have us come and share Christ. The people would come out next door on their porch and wave us to be coming to their house. Like we'd have to tell them, wait a minute, we'll be there. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. But family after family would be weeping on the floor, asking Christ to come in their life. And I'll tell you, I had never seen someone pray to receive Christ before in my life. I was 39 or 40 years old at the time. I had never experienced seeing someone give their life to Christ, much less really playing a role in helping explaining the gospel to them. So it was a life-changing experience. And what that's done is that's helped me be more bold in sharing my faith here and more loving to people around me to be concerned about their salvation.
All right. Well, Michael, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back after the break and hear more about Real Life International with Michael O'Neill. So hang tight. We'll be right back.
In an era of subjective news and social media frenzy, where do believers turn for a trustworthy source of information? Since 1843, the Alabama Baptist newspaper has been this source for many believers across the state. It's not just for Baptists, but for Christians of all denominations who are interested in news and information from a Christian perspective. To sign up, go to thealabamabaptist.org and hit the subscribe button. With their all-access subscription, you'll have the Alabama Baptist paper delivered to your home each week, along with a PDF digital edition and full web access. You'll receive reviews of current movies, music, and books, a monthly family package that deals with real-life issues, and a weekly Christian theology column. The paper will also include current news reports and resources to help you grow as a believer. So subscribe to the Alabama Baptist paper today by going to thealabamabaptist.org. And be sure to tune in to their on-air program every Saturday at 2 p.m. on 101.1 WXJC. The Alabama Baptist, inspiring, informing, and connecting believers.
Let David Gerard add a touch of magic to your next special event. VBS, Upward Awana celebrations, fall festivals, volunteer appreciation, dad-daughter banquets. David Gerard has just the right program for your church. David has been entertaining and inspiring audiences with tricks and truth for more than 50 years. He served on a church staff for 42 years, so he understands ministry. Contact David today at www.davidgerardmagic.com.
You're listening to Tab News. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash.
And I'm your co-host, Debbie Campbell.
We are talking with Michael O'Neill, the founder and director of Real Life International, based here in Birmingham, Alabama, and a group that works alongside the church to engage the people of God in the mission of God for the glory of God. How about that for reading your tagline? All right. So, Michael, tell us how Real Life works. How could if there's a church or a family or a business team, if they wanted to get involved and they were interested, tell us a little bit about how to do that and how it all works.
Yes. So we connect the long-term missionaries who are serving abroad with people and groups here who want to go and serve on a short-term trip. So it can be churches, it can be a business, it can be a Bible study group, it can be a athletic team or whoever. The Lord can use any of us in serving in ways we've never imagined. And so the way our ministry works is typically we'll have a leader, and that's someone in a church or someone that's leading a small group or a ministry or something, and they will want to go and serve over spring break or a certain week of the year, and they will essentially recruit the team to join them.
Okay.
And once they recruit the team, then we help take care of all the logistics, all of the getting the passports, collecting the money, dealing with the scheduling and the flights and everything that's going to take place, so that the leader who's very, very busy, typically leaders got a lot going on, that we kind of take all that off of them. They don't have to do all that. They just have to get the people together. And then we assist the leader in training the team before they go and sharing some of the best practices for short-term missions. We also share some of the things that the host missionary wants to have communicated to the team before they come, so that when they come, they're ready to serve. They know some things about the culture. They know a lot about the ministry that they're going to be joining. They know some things about the local church. And when they come, they're ready to hit the ground running. So that's one of the big parts that we play. And then, and then we help the team go. And we provide some devotional materials. We provide a lot of materials that they'll use when they're on the ground, whether it be, gospel tracts in different language, or solar lights for people that are poor to have light, or water filters, or, a variety of, Bibles in different languages, a lot of different things. We want to send teams equipped and help them serve well. Mm-hmm. We want to be a blessing to the long-term missionary and not a hindrance. Mm-hmm. And then we also want to send the long-term missionaries, support. We want to send them people and resources so they can better accomplish their mission.
What areas of the world do you serve?
Great question. So far, we have served for the last 10 years mainly in Latin America and parts of the Caribbean, where Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, places like that. South America as well. We do Ecuador, and we're looking to expand some of the more difficult places in the world to go to, maybe some unreached people groups, for some smaller teams that have people that are more experienced and interested in that type of service. We want to be able to help them take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning all the tips and all, so I'm guessing that means you would help them make sure they have their passport before they get on the plane, right?
Absolutely.
Or get to the airport.
Yeah.
Just if there need to be shots or any kind of vaccinations or anything like that, you would go through all of those types of.
Yeah, each country has different things you want to be aware of. Different packing lists. There's different ways that men and women dress there locally.
Right.
We want to help them
Cultural
know that.
pieces. Yeah. Okay.
And then we want to help. We do teach evangelism, and so we want to help people learn how to share their testimony, learn how to share their faith. A lot of people have not done that before.
Yeah.
And so that stretches people some, and we want to help them understand also that we're not going into these other countries as the heroes to save the day. Right. We are going as broken, sinful people, going to exchange blessings with other broken, sinful people. And we want to learn from the locals that we're serving as we are also sharing with them. So it's a really neat time that the Lord teaches us a lot when we go and we serve with long-term missionaries who've sacrificed their life to further the kingdom, and then also people who are maybe living in material poverty, but they're rich in relationships and faith, and due to some circumstances that we are not exposed to. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very healthy exchange of blessings that takes place.
That's good.
Is there a premier time limit? What am I trying to say? To build up, like a pre-time where they would connect with you and you would have X number of weeks or months to get. I'm losing my words here, but to be trained, to be lead time.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Is there that sweet spot of that where you would have enough time with your teams?
I think 6 months is a great time to prepare. Okay. And a lot of times it depends on the field partner, the long-term missionaries, their schedule and their availability. But that gives us plenty of time to get everything,
So you have these field partners you're talking about. Are they already in place and you're constantly communicating with them?
Yes.
It's almost like you have a list. You know what's needed.
Yes. That's exactly right.
I love that.
So we know when they need teams. We know the types of teams they need. We know if they want, children, if they do, what's the youngest age. If they're doing a lot of youth ministry, it's great for kids to go. If they're doing other types of ministry, sometimes it's not the best fit, and you want just men to go or women to go. So we do want to match the teams up well. Medical teams, sometimes different partners. Really for us to be the mouthpiece for the partner here and help recruit and send people to them so they can better do what they're over there to do, then it's a win-win.
Yeah. So you say short-term mission trips. What does that really mean? What does that look like?
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, and I think that the only part of it that's short-term is how long you're there, but if that's the end of it, then I think it's a bad thing, right? So there's a lot of articles about that and a lot of different things. Short-term missions, when it's done properly, should have a long-term impact. And I think there's several ways to ensure that. One, that you do what the ongoing ministry that the local partner is doing, the local church. What are they doing that's an ongoing, sustainable ministry? We want to join in those type activities. And then also, we want to send the same people back to the same places so that relationships continue.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you may have a church or a Bible study group or something here connected with a church or a missionary there, and it's a repeated, returning to the same place where you have relationships, you have work you've engaged in before, and those things are just continued when you come back. And the love that it shows when you come is fantastic. When you come back, it's just magnified, and the relationships really take off.
Right. You have that trust factor.
That's right.
That gets built. Yeah. That's great.
All right. So Real Life spelled REEL. Tell us the story.
That's it. So the first trip we did to Costa Rica, I realized Costa Rica was a really big sport fishing place. And so we used the sport fishing to try to recruit people to come. If we, come and we'll do this mission trip, and the last day we'll go fishing off the coast of Costa Rica. And so that worked, and we had several people come, and they were interested in that, and they all told me at the end of the trip, this has been amazing, and we would come back even if we didn't do that. This has been incredible. So, that was really good to hear, and we did that the next couple of years. But, when we went to Cuba on that trip where we went and did door-to-door ministry, at that point the Lord let me see that we weren't a mission trip ministry that did sport fishing. We were fishers of men. That's what we were designed to be. That's what we were helping to cultivate, a passion for the gospel through these short-term trips. Our prayer is that when people go and serve short-term, they're able to see God in a way they've never seen the Lord, experience a different side of Him, be stretched, and develop a passion for the gospel, so that when they come home, they're better able to live out their faith more effectively. They're more intentional, they're more passionate, their giving to missions increases, their interest in pursuing the lost increases, the interest in serving the poor. Doing those things, we need to, realize that a short-term mission trip is, I almost look at it as a spiritual retreat. I'm going to go and I'm going to have a week fully committed to the Lord, without distractions, without interruptions, immersed in ministry. It's hard to get that here. I need to go away and unplug for a week to get that. But when I come back here, in my business, in my community, in my relationships with other people, I have a ministry that I'm called to 24/7. And this is where the Lord has me. So when I go and serve there, I come back recharged to do my ministry here better, to live out my calling here better.
I like that. Real time.
So, so if I'm interested in contacting you, do we have packages we picked? Is there a la carte? How do we pay for this thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. We do all the above. Our heart is for people to go and serve. And so if somebody wants to, if they need us to help them build a custom trip for their certain friends or their team or whoever wants to go, we will do that for sure. We'll help them put something together. We also have trips that, for example, this spring break that's coming up, we have several trips that we have leaders currently recruiting and trying to fill their teams that are already going to certain places. So it's really an either or.
Oh, so say Jennifer and I decide we wanted to take off we could contact you and say, hey, the two of us want to get connected to a group.
Absolutely.
We could be put in a group.
Yes. There's a website that has all of our contact information and information about the ministry and about the trips. It's called reallife.org, and that's REEL-life.org. And then there's a info@reallife.org email address that people could contact us that way. But we'd love to hear from anybody who's interested in serving or leading. We just, again, we're praying for people, for their hearts to be moved so that they'll go and serve. And we have a lot of first-time mission trip participants come with us.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
first-timers can go.
I know. I bet that the good mentors there and first-timers. Okay, so that's reallife.org, and that's REEL-LIFE.org. You also can read a testimonial story in the Alabama Baptist from a recent trip. One of your colleagues went and took her family, so that's in the Alabama Baptist. You can find that at alabamabaptist.org or tabonline.org. So, Michael, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for telling your story.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to speak.
All right. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week.